And I'll end the poll in a second, and then we'll get cracking. So I'm going to end the poll. Let's just share these results so you guys know what I'm reading. Okay, cool. So who have we got on the webinar today? We've got 50% year 12s, 33% to start with of year 13s, 1 year 11, and someone who's left school as well. How much do you know about Unilever? I don't know why I put yes there, that's my mistake. Somewhat, 25%, not much, 42%, and nothing, 33%, so that's interesting. But we're going to change that today. Are you looking for an apprenticeship this summer or next? 25% this summer, 50% next summer, 25% still deciding. No one here is going to uni apparently, but we'll wait for a few more to come on board. Well, sorry, we won't wait, but we're going to crack on. So Unilever is the session today. We've got 3 different panelists for you, and I'll take you through the agenda now. So for those of you that have been on webinars before, you know how to communicate. I'll quickly touch on it. For everybody else, I want you to know about Unilever, and the introduction from our first panelist, Sarah, will give us a bit of an intro into what Unilever do, which is why it's so interesting for you guys, because it's a massive multinational company, and you'll recognize a lot of the brands that they are associated with. Introductions from our apprentice panelists. It's good to hear, and I haven't really spoken too much to them yet, but I want to hear their stories, how they got to where they are, their decision-making processes, and just really find out, like, you know, could you position yourself maybe where they are now? It's always quite fun to do, a bit too late for me. Job opportunities, we'll come back at the end just to look at what Unilever are actually offering in terms of jobs, apprenticeships, and that type of thing. And then Q&A, you can ask questions whenever you want, guys, throughout the question, but throughout the session, but at the end is when we'll really focus on those questions that you do want to get across. How you do this, Q&A box, okay, so that's where you want to ask all your questions, because I'm going to go through those chronologically and make sure that I answer all of them. If you've got anything extra and additional that's not a question, stick it in the chat box. If you do want to raise your hand, seemingly not many people seem to do it, but if you do want to raise your hand, you skip the queue, and I'll actually let you speak and I'll unmute you. It's probably the best way of interacting with the panelists, and you can ask them yourself rather than going through me, but you've got to have a bit of confidence to do it. So it'd be great if we saw someone do that today. Cool. Well, you know about me, guys. I'm Chris, and I'm the founder of Pathway CTM. But Sarah, I'd like to hand over to now to talk about Unilever Apprenticeship Programmes and that macro overview of the organisation.
Sure. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We're all super excited that you are here to kind of learn a bit more about Unilever and our apprenticeship programs as well. Just a little bit of a kind of introduction to me, I guess. So as you can see on the slide, so I am our future careers lead, and I work in human resources at the moment. But it's definitely not where I started. So my kind of background is that I actually left school after my first year of my A-levels, and I actually completed a hairdressing apprenticeship, which I did for 2.5 years. I qualified as a hairdresser, but I then had a change of heart and decided that I wanted to do something that was challenging in a very different way. One of my friends was actually doing the Unilever apprenticeship, and I went to visit him in our office in Leatherhead, which is where I'm normally based. And I was, very drawn in. As soon as I walked into the office, you step in, and in front of you have a Tony and Guy salon and a Ben & Jerry's bar where you can get free ice cream. So that I was hooked at that. But yeah, so I started my career with Unilever on our business administration apprenticeship. And I did that in our communications team. So I worked on a variety of internal and external communications, doing things like press releases and internal news articles, coordinating big internal events for kind of up to 800 people, things like that. So that was what I did across my apprenticeship when I worked in communications. And then when I finished my apprenticeship in communications, I then applied for a role, for my role now in HR. So I had always kind of been quite passionate about apprenticeships. I think by the time I'd finished 2 apprenticeships, I realised that actually I was pretty fond of the concepts of an apprenticeship. So I joined our future careers team about 18 months ago now. I kind of started off mainly looking after our apprenticeships and our training providers and things like that. And then over the last sort of 6 months or so, I've gone into a kind of more broader role where I look after our apprenticeships, but also our placement schemes, our graduate scheme as well. So if you do have any questions as we go through on anything other than apprenticeships at Unilever, then absolutely ask your questions about that. But that's enough about me. So on to Unilever. So Unilever are a global fast-moving consumer goods company, which sounds like a bit of a mouthful if you haven't heard it before. But when I show you kind of some of the brands that we own, you'll kind of get a bit of a better understanding of kind of what that actually means. If you can just, yeah, that's it. So we're a global company. We have a huge turnover. We operate in most countries. I think it's about 240 countries across the world. So lots and lots of countries. We have, I think we have over 140 brands as well. Lots of those that you will recognise. As you can see here, our turnover in 2019 was 52 billion euros, which is a lot. And it's quite overwhelming when you kind of join the business and you realise the scale of it. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees even across the world. So we're a massive company. And then if we move on to the next slide. So here's where some of our brands will probably become pretty recognisable for lots of you. So we make many of the world's favourite brands, and we divide our brands into 3 different categories. So we have our beauty and personal care brands, so things like Dove. These are actually our global brands, but Axe is known globally, but that's actually the Lynx brand, which most of you are probably recognise in the UK, as well as Rexona, which is in the UK known as Shaw. Obviously you've seen Dove on there as well. It's things like VO5. We even own some of the kind of Toni & Guy brands as well, Tresemme, lots of different beauty and personal care brands like those. We then have our home care category. So again, what is globally known as Omo is Persil in the UK. So we own Persil, Surf, Comfort, things like Domestos. You've probably seen lots of the kind of work Domestos have been doing recently in kind of light of COVID-19. So yeah, so we have lots of brands in home care, and then finally we have foods and refreshments. Hopefully lots of you like and use / consume a lot of these products. So yeah, so we have a massive foods and refreshment category, including many of our ice cream brands, so Magnum, Walls, and then we also have kind of our dressings like Hellmann's, and obviously you can see on the slide as well, Lipton too. And then in terms of our apprenticeships, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on our apprenticeships in a moment, but these are kind of just some of the key awards that we've won for some of our apprenticeships. But I think the only other thing that I'll kind of mention on as part of our, I guess, our introduction to Unilever is, and actually something I probably should have included in the slides, is kind of our commitment to sustainability. And I'd be keen to hear actually if any of you are particularly passionate about sustainability, or if you've seen anything that we've done from a sustainability perspective. I think particularly in light of the COVID-19 crisis, really we've had a lot to do around that, and a big part of that is around our commitment to sustainability. And when we say sustainability, we mean that in lots of different ways. So it's things like social sustainability. So what we're doing today links to our social sustainability goals of ensuring that young people have the opportunity to join apprenticeship programs, for example. But it's also the kind of environmental things that we can support. So, you know, when we're developing some of our new products and brands, it's things like, how do we create a shampoo that needs less water? How do we create a washing detergent that works just as well at 30 degrees as it does at 60 degrees? So it's things like that we're working on. But one of the big things that's also really important to us is kind of health and hygiene. So again, this has all been really emphasised in kind of recent months, but we do loads of work around kind of ensuring that school children have education on hand washing, and We support things as well in the with the Dove brand. Again, you might have heard of this in the past. They might have even run it at your school, but we run a campaign called Dove Day, which is again where we go into schools and we talk to kind of secondary school students and talk to them about self-esteem and how we can kind of support that. So that's kind of the only other thing that I just wanted to mention is kind of our commitment to sustainability. And again, if you want more information on that, more than happy to share that. Or there's loads of information on our website. But that's a relatively good kind of, I guess, opener to who are Unilever.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Sarah. And Masood, you've already inspired him, saying he's planning to leave college and join an apprenticeship. So this will guide me towards the right path, which is great. I just wonder, when you did leave, was it year 12 that you left school?
Yeah.
And college? Yeah. Just talk us through the decision-making process. So you went into sort of, maybe it might have been A-levels, then realised it wasn't for you. Is that right?
Yeah, so I did, to be honest, a big part of it was around my sixth form wasn't very well set up, to be honest. And I remember having lots of my lessons cancelled and things like that. I don't think they had really enough funding in the sixth form. But I think I passed, so when I was doing my AS levels, I still had to do exams in year 12. Yeah. And I passed all of my exams and I could have gone back for year 13, but I really didn't feel inspired by it. And I'd really had enough of doing the kind of traditional education route. And as much as I went into hairdressing and came away from it, that was absolutely the right thing for me. I think for lots of people, they're not particularly motivated by sitting in a classroom or in a lecture hall. Lots of people are, but I certainly wasn't. And for me, it was all about actually being able to kind of start earning my own money and actually learning a physical skill. That was what really drew me to doing that.
And I've got a couple of questions for you, Sarah, while we're on a bit of a roll. I guess, what was your biggest challenge? The fact that you didn't go to university, I suppose. You went through the apprenticeship route and now you are where you are, managing a team. It must have been maybe a bit harder than the more traditional route, I wonder? Or?
Yeah, in some senses. I mean, lots of people, to be honest, I quite like the fact that I've done a pretty unconventional career path, but it's really worked for me the whole way through. As I mentioned about kind of I wanted to get out and I wanted to learn a skill and I wanted to kind of be independent and earn my own money and stuff like that. And it was challenging. I think one of the biggest things that I found difficult was the grief that I got from a lot of my teachers, who all wanted me to finish my A-levels and go to university. And then they were really cross with me when they found out I was going to do hairdressing. So that was one of the big challenges. I think my mum also had a lot of reservations. Again, possibly more about the fact that I was doing hairdressing over an apprenticeship. But I think it's been tough at times. I think for me to have done 3 years working towards a hairdressing qualification, to then step away from that was also really challenging because I'd invested a lot of time and energy into doing that. But I also think I often reflect on whether if I'd have just left sixth form and come straight to Unilever, would I have been more successful than I am now? Would I have been more senior by now? I actually think that, first of all, I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason. But also when I reflect on everything that I learned from kind of from leaving school and going to do a hairdressing apprenticeship, it's all really, really transferable. All the skills that I learned are super transferable. And I think it's helped me to become a better communicator. And ultimately it's helped me so much in my career at Unilever as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's an inspiring story, really, which is why we're talking about it. Because the traditional route would be you would finish year 13, but you didn't, and you still managed to do really well, which is great. And now you're placements, grads, and apprentices. There's so much choice now for young people, aren't there? Just any insights in terms of what Unilever are doing? Have you still got more graduates, or is the apprenticeship scheme catching up, or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is quite interesting actually, because what's really interesting for me, because Unilever are a global company, what we do from a global perspective is very different to what we do in the UK, because a lot of countries don't have a kind of traditional apprenticeship route that we've always had in the UK. But what is interesting is that actually our apprentice intake is now much larger in the UK than it is for graduates. So at the moment we recruit around 40 graduates a year, whereas we're recruiting between 80 and 90 apprentices. So wow. It's double.
Wow, that's so interesting. And before I let you go, how's COVID been for you? Are you working from home? Is that your setup at the moment? Or?
Yeah, this is my setup. I'm here in my kitchen, and I've been here for the last how many weeks? I think we're on week 13. So it's been challenging working from home. But I think some of the technology that we have access to has been a complete game changer. I've learned a lot being at home, and yeah, definitely some positives, but also really looking forward to my office family when we do go back.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Sarah. We'll come back to you later. Ijaz, over to you, please. One of our apprentice panelists, Data Analyst Apprentice Procurement. Tell us more, Ijaz.
Yeah, so my name's Ijaz and I work as a data analyst in marketing procurement. And yes, data analyst, what I exactly do is I help collect and analyze Unilever's data to support decision making. That could be a lot of things when it comes to purchasing something, marketing services as in TV production, who do we go to for the best TV adverts, that kind of stuff. A day-to-day role would...
Just before I day-to-day, I wonder, Ijaz, what was your story to get you to where you are today?
Oh, okay. Do you want the full story? So
full story.
Okay, so I finished, come out of year 12, year 13, had a few A-levels under my belt. I thought, okay, Asian parents, they're like, yeah, uni. So I was like, okay, go on, I'll give you guys one. Got into London South Bank, done 1 year at London South Bank studying petroleum engineering. It just wasn't for me. I love the partying side of things with uni, but it just wasn't for me. So I dropped.
I wonder, why did you study that? Because your parents thought it'd be a good degree, or because you were passionate about it?
The thing, if you want me to be honest, when I done my research against all the other types of engineering, like civil, petroleum, mechanical, petroleum kind of caught my attention. So I thought, okay, yeah, I've got the grades, why not? And I went for it. A year into it, I finished the whole year and I was like, oh, not really for me. So I kind of dropped out. Mum and dad not really happy. Got myself a normal job at Sainsbury's, and then I had applied for a load of jobs. So now one day I got a phone call, picked the phone call up, and it was monsterjobs.co.uk. And they were like, oh, hey, we've come across your CV. Would you be interested in a 6-week course with a company called Unilever? Have you heard about them? And I was gone, yes, I have. So they called me in and I'd done this 6-week training, you could say, like a work experience kind of thing. Done 6 weeks that, and then I spoke to the manager there and they were like, yeah, why don't you put an application in to become an apprentice? So I was like, yeah, why not? So then I put my application in, passed the phone interview, got called in, done my assessment, and it come to presenting, and that was not something I'm really strong at. So I must have just messed up with the presentation, and I walked out the door knowing I didn't get it. The next day, I got an email saying, unfortunately, swipe, deleted the email. Give up there. I waited till the next intake. I worked on my flaws, and then I got through the phone interview, come through, and at the time when I come in for my second round, you could say, the person who was there previously must have recognized my face. She's now left the business, and then Rebecca Wharton's gone, wait, you were here last? I was going, yeah, so you come back? I was going, yeah. Smashed it, and then I got myself the role, finished business administration, 18 months, and then I got offered, I got offered the opportunity to jump on the apprenticeship scheme to become a data analyst. I was like, yes, done my research on data analysts. It's a trending topic right now. So I thought, you know what, let's go for it. And here I am.
That's amazing. So did you wait the whole year to reapply to Unilever?
I applied in the March, wait, was it the March intake? Yes, March intake. Yeah, March intake, didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the following intake I'll give
Right, okay, yeah.
a shot.
What a great story that is. And then so university, and then you went, and then business admin apprenticeship. Was that level 2, level 3, or
level 3?
level 3? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how did you feel about getting accepted onto that apprenticeship?
Over the moon. I was like, I remember the phone call. I got the phone call saying, Rebecca called me saying, "Oh, Ijaz, you got the apprentice." I'm like, "Mum, Dad, yeah, I've got it. Woo!"
That's amazing. Okay, well, I love that. We'll come back to you in a second, Ijaz. So, data analyst now. We'll go into a bit more detail in a second. Ellie, what's your story? So, project management apprentice in marketing. Let's have a listen to Ellie, please.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can see, I'm a project management apprentice. It's a level 4 APM qualification I'm working towards, and I work in marketing. So I work in the global team. As Sarah mentioned, there's different categories. So I work in the home care category for a home and hygiene brand called Sift, which you might be familiar with. And I work as an apprentice assistant brand manager. So that means, at the moment, supporting on lots of new innovations, different projects. I work for a lot of engagement, and just as well as internal communication. So working with different teams around the globe, and yes, taking ownership of that really. But also, what's super exciting is all the innovations, bringing projects to life. So you see like a new product, and we're talking about it, and we're working on it, and then through the different phases, and actually seeing that come together, which is a really fun aspect of the job. And
I just wonder, how many years have you been in the job? And let's work backwards to maybe what the catalyst was to help you get into your role today.
Yeah, sure. So I've started in September last year.
Wow.
So not very long at all. It does feel like a long time ago now, but not long in the scheme of things. I'll be here for 2 years in total. And I decided so what really made me, I think, choose a less academic path. When I did my GCSE, so I left school in 2017, and I didn't even want to do A-levels. I really didn't feel like I love learning, and I think as well with an apprenticeship and any job, you learn every day, whether it's academic or on the job. But I thought, no, sitting in a classroom again isn't really for me. Had a look at a few apprenticeships then, and was very close to applying, but knew I could get, I wouldn't say better, but maybe a higher level apprenticeship had I had A-levels. Really couldn't make my mind up there, and then decided to do a BTEC at college. So a level 3 BTEC diploma in business, so general business covering marketing, economics, finance, human resources, a really wide range. I covered there, and I was there for 2 years, and ended up getting the equivalent to A-levels, which to me I saw as a stepping stone almost, and this is what I need to do this to get me on the next step and what I would really like to do. Whilst I was at college, I could work alongside that, so I just got myself a part-time job and ended up working all hours there that I could, because I liked earning money. I was really lucky, I enjoyed my job, I liked the working environment, and yeah, really knew I wanted to carry on working. And as I mentioned, wasn't that academic, so knew I didn't want to go to university. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but encouragement from my college. I guess from their point of view, they want their students to progress to university. So it was a lot of trying to convince me to go down that path, but just stuck to guns, knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then started looking for apprenticeships. Nothing to do with the work I was really doing, that was retail work. And started to think about so I did business at college, what do I like, which topics am I preferring, and actually firstly applied for a lot of like Ernst Young, EY, Deloitte, a couple of them, to do like audit and tax, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, and actually got far in I managed to get on a couple, and some I just didn't get through. And then I was thinking, well, if I can't get on an apprenticeship, maybe I'll have to go to uni, maybe I'll have to just apply for a job. And it was then when I came across Unilever that I thought, yeah, this is what this offers is a lot wider. It's a lot, I think when people say you might not get it because you're not right for the job, and you think, oh, people are just saying that, it must be me. Actually, in some cases, and then a lot of the time for me, I think, yeah, I'm so glad that things didn't work out, and that I ended up looking at Unilever because project management is great, and working in marketing, well, I find that really exciting. But yeah, that's about it really, just choosing the right path for me. And I left school, didn't take any time out, didn't take any gap years, just went straight.
Ellie, we'll keep going with you if that's okay while you're on the roll. So just to our students on this webinar, guys, this is where you can ask questions at all. So do feel free, like Ellie just shared her story, do feel free to ask her any questions, and I'll ask her now. But what does a typical day look like for you, I suppose, then, Ellie?
So a typical day for me is something that I thoroughly enjoy as well. It's very interactive, it's very engaging. So every day it's talking to people, it's meetings, and I find that really positive, that I get to spend my day talking to people, in some cases at the other side of the world, and sometimes right next to me. I have meetings with my immediate team, and what I can achieve in a day, and really challenging myself and having deadlines to meet. And it's hard, and giving yourself, being enabled, I should say, independence and responsibility. But actually that's really rewarding when you can look back on the week or what you've achieved and said, yeah, I've done a lot that day. So for example, leading a meeting with everyone that works on the brand, all functions and all teams, so different people around the world, or meeting a deadline to ensure that a project progresses as it should. Lots like that. I'm not sure if there's any more details specifically you need to go into.
No, I just wonder, Ellie, what level's your apprenticeship again?
Level 4.
Level 4. Okay, so there we go. One question coming in saying, do Unilever do higher and degree level apprenticeships as well as level 3, level 4? That's absolutely right. So you're level 4, and then you'll be finished in is it a couple of years or so? Or?
Yes, it'll be September next year, 2021.
Okay, great. And do you know what your plan is from there?
I was quite optimistic. I'd like to, if I can, do a level 6 apprenticeship, which be like a full degree. I believe they're 3.5 years. I'm sure Sarah will probably explain more.
At Unilever?
At Unilever, yeah.
How does that work then? Can you progress up the levels once you've finished? Yeah.
So again, I'll let Sarah give you more accurate detail on this now. I don't know if I'll step in, but I believe you can. I know people that have done it. I think you do have to reapply. There's no guarantee. There's no, I guess, upper hand to that. So again, for anybody that's looking to apply for an apprenticeship, don't think that you'll be up against people that are already within the company and have got an advantage, because that's really not the case. And I know of people that it hasn't been right for them the second time around, or some people don't choose to do a second apprenticeship, but I would like to take the opportunity to and try. But I've got quite a while to think about it. I know there's offboarding support as well. So
okay, it's pretty cool you get that opportunity. I suppose, what advice for young people? You are a young person, Ellie, but what advice for people who maybe want to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm 19, just turned 19, so I feel like very young, and can relate to a lot of you. I would say make sure you know all the options that are available to you. It's great that you attend webinars, workshops, careers fairs, anything. I didn't actually do this, perhaps I should have. University open days. Keep in mind every option you've got, and take advice on board. Go with what's right for you. Don't somebody saying, oh, you've got really good grades, you'll be the ideal university candidate, because if you know that's not right for me, then yes, really stick to what you think is right, bearing everything in mind. I can't say this from personal, that's not happened to me, but if you go to university or you start an apprenticeship and it's not right for you, I know lots of people. There's a really great apprentice community at Unilever. We all talk and we're all very close, which is a really great support network. But don't be disheartened if you start something and it's not right for you. It's a learning. You've learnt from it. You've not wasted any time. And I guess as a role within Unilever, the advice I'd give is it can feel quite overwhelming. I know Sarah mentioned it's a massive organisation, a big company that you start off. I mean, I was very young, very inexperienced in this industry, but never feel like you're less superior or less important than anyone else. You can really do a lot. There's a lot you can contribute. You can work towards Unilever's goals and plans and get involved with a lot. And people are really supportive and might feel like everyone's a lot more experienced and qualified than you, but don't let that put you off, and don't feel that's too daunting, because you'll soon realise that everyone was in your position once. So it's okay to be the new person.
No, it's great that they support you that much, and I really like your idea of maybe getting a degree paid for by the company as well. Great stuff, Ellie. And there's some questions coming in. I'm going to hand over to Ejaz. Ejaz, what does a typical day look like for you, sir?
All right, so definitely after my morning cup of coffee, flip my laptop open, go whiz through my emails, and then I'd pull in different reports from different sources based on the request coming in. That would be like my main role, you could say, pulling data from different sources, putting it together and giving the manager or the third-party team outside of Unilever what they want to see. And this could be a supplier from outside or a manager who sits right next door to me. Would be my day-to-day, like everyday kind of role. Alongside that, I will be working on multiple projects. When I say projects, it's always about the current processes we have, and if we could make the process implement a better process, is what I would do alongside my main role. But other than that, yeah, it's just a lot of data, a lot of Excel sheets, meetings. Yeah, with different stakeholders, you could say. Just before the Corona lockdown, we could say, what was that? Myself and my line manager had to find a new supplier for different pieces of artwork, which go, let's say, around the Ben & Jerry's ice cream tubs. So we sat down, we analyzed all the different suppliers, how much they would quote us for the piece of work. And then we found this other supplier was giving us the same piece of work, but for cheaper, but then we didn't know who they were. So then we went, sat them down. They bought a nice cheesy meat hamper thingy. And yeah, now meet new suppliers, and it went really well, stuff like that. But yeah, it's cool.
No, good man. And what about, I've got a question here from Fidel. I'm saying, how do you guys fit into the wider team as apprentices? Is there a barrier at all, Ejaz, or is it just like being a regular employee?
But as in, like, obviously I'm an apprentice in this team, and then no, we all connect together. We all connect together. So then all the apprentices, we have like different. We're like a whole different team. We have our own little community, apprentice community, and we all get along with each other. We go when the new intake come in, then we the old apprentices make them feel all homely and that, and get them all settled in. But yeah, no, it's a community thing.
And I guess, go on, and in terms of any advice for young people wanting to get into your shoes and get into Unilever, any top tips? I mean, you came through the process.
Be courageous about meeting people and not being shy about having a go at something. And most of all, just be yourself. Yeah.
That's good advice. It's great advice. And let me just keep you guys here for a second. So here we go. Ellen says, how often do you interact or work with other sectors of the business? Really good question to both of you. Ejaz, if you want to kick that one off.
What was the question?
So I guess you've got so many different sectors and different brands. Give us an indication of maybe how wide your work goes, I suppose.
So just to go over my title, is global procurement. So the thing is, we're all interconnected one way or another. So we have to work together as a team. It's not like, my team's just my team. Marketing have to liaise with finance, and finance have to liaise with customer development / sales. And it's all interconnected into one big thing. And that's how Unilever function. It's not like they're one own entity and then they're another team. It's just how it works. The business is an interconnected kind of.
That must keep it pretty interesting, Ellie.
Yeah, definitely. And it gives you a great exposure to the business in general. So not just what I work on, which is marketing.
Yeah.
So take for an innovation project, for example, it's great that I can, me personally, but the team in marketing can think of a new innovation, a product. Okay, this is a new cleaning product, but how do we get this on shelves? Those CMI, which is about consumer and market insight. So will a consumer actually buy this? What do they want? How can I communicate this product with someone? And then we work with supply chain. So, okay, how can we get this? How can we produce this and get it shelf really for the consumer that wants it to buy it. Finance, do we have the budget? Yeah, so many different aspects to it. And even though you might not work directly on it, I think it's the fact you get exposure. And actually I might love what I do in marketing at the moment, but I might think, oh no, I like the idea of that. Oh, personally for me, I find consumer behaviour really interesting. So any chance I get to get involved with anything to do with CMI, I'll take that opportunity. And you're very enabled to do that. You're my manager, and the team, they're very supportive of you broadening your knowledge and encouraging, if anything, of you getting the bigger picture.
Fantastic. I've got another question here saying, what qualifications are the most transferable or more favourable when applying to a job at Unilever? I'll come to Sarah with that one in a second, but Ellie, Ijaz, is there anything that you studied or that you were passionate about that's helped you in your job now, or is it completely irrelevant almost, I wonder?
I'd have to say, when you leave school, you have to take a bit with you. I don't know if I'm wording it correct, but you take a little bit of your school with you, and I guess it's collectively like your experiences at school, and which kind of helped me to come here. Like Sarah said earlier, things happen for a reason, right? And yeah.
Ellie, anything to add on to that? And then I'm gonna move on, I think.
Yeah, quickly. I think it's about a lot of like soft skills and about how you are as a person. So communication and a lot of think about your attributes, and don't try and mold yourself. There isn't the perfect, you have to fit the mold, but
be yourself.
How can I really utilize the natural skills I have? Like if I'm very good at communicating, or if you're confident, or if, whatever that is that you've got, make it work. But I would say you don't need to adapt yourself in any way, just
be yourself.
Yeah,
no, I like it. Well done, guys. All right, we're going to come back to a few questions, really good ones. Ellen, thanks very much for your questions. I'm just conscious of time, so I want Sarah just to come across actually just a little bit more detail about what apprenticeships are on offer, if that's okay, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. So this next slide will probably answer quite a few of the questions that have cropped up actually. So at Unilever, we have 3 different streams of apprenticeships. There's only 2 on here at the moment because we're not actually recruiting for the 3rd. But our apprenticeships are broken down into business and technology apprenticeships, which are typically our office-based apprenticeships. We then have our research and development apprenticeships, so things like working in our labs, creating kind of new product formulations and things like that. And then we also have apprenticeships in supply chain and engineering as well, so working on the factory floor, kind of creating those brands that I took you through a little bit earlier. But this is also a really good kind of breakdown of what are the programs that we offer at different levels. And then the programs that I've highlighted in green are the ones that we are still taking applications for. So we have a variety of different locations across the UK. So we have a big hub in the northwest, which is Port Sunlight, which is quite near to Liverpool. So we have lots of roles available there. But then we also have a few different sites as kind of like a cluster in the southeast as well. So we have a site in London, Kingston, and where I'm based in Leatherhead, which is in Surrey. So we have a variety of different programs and locations. But yeah, so these are all the different programs that we currently offer. The green ones are the ones that we're still live for. I think one of the questions was around, do we offer degree level apprenticeships? Yeah, absolutely. So all the level 6 ones are degrees. And we work with a variety of different universities to deliver those programs. So we work with the Open University, we work with York St John University, we work with London South Bank University as well, Sheffield Hallam. So we work with a real mixture of different training providers, which is really, really cool as well. So it means that all of the different programs kind of have a very unique, I guess, set of kind of qualities to it.
I just wonder, Sarah, if you did want to go and apply for a role maybe in Liverpool, do people ever relocate to work at Unilever?
Yeah, often, yeah. I mean, it varies in people's circumstances. So sometimes there's a couple of based in London who live with family members, like kind of aunts and uncles or whatever. But then there's also a few apprentices who have kind of relocated together. So again, there's an apprentice who lives in a house share in London or relatively near to London. because she is based in London office in Blackfriars. And we can also help with that as well. So we offer, we kind of set up some community things for when apprentices first start with us. We put you on a little Facebook group where you can kind of connect with your cohort of apprentices. And we also share some very simple kind of like where to live guides, where are the cheapest places to live that are kind of near to our offices, for example. But yeah, we've got a handful of apprentices who are kind of relocating.
Okay, and we've got quite a few people asking some keen questions. I just wanted to get across one from Ellen, which is, do you have anything like favourable when applying? Are there anything that you have to get in terms of grades or subjects? Yeah,
so to be honest, this varies. It depends on what programme you're applying for. So I think the best way to probably explain it for those of you who might not know is that your level 3 apprenticeship is kind of equivalent to A levels. Your level 4 is equivalent to like a foundation degree, whereas your level 6 is a full degree. And as you can imagine, with any other qualification, or if you were going to university, the level of the qualification that you're applying for will kind of basically determine what are the entry requirements. So as standard, all of our apprenticeships, we ask that you have at least 5 GCSEs, including maths and English. And you will probably find that across the board with most apprenticeship employers, that's kind of a standard requirement. So we always ask that you've got 5 GCSEs, maths and English. And then as you kind of climb up the levels, then we ask for kind of more specific qualifications. So for level 4 programmes, we ask for, I think we normally ask for a minimum of 2 A levels, but we don't specify what the qualifications, what A levels are in. But then it's when you get to level 6 when the programmes are much more specialised. So for example, with data science, there's actually quite a big focus on maths and statistics. So for example, with data science, we ask that you have 3 A levels, one of those including at least a C or above in maths. Digital marketing is pretty generic. So for most of the level 6s, we just ask that you have 3 A levels. And then you can see with research and development, it's a little bit more specialist again, particularly when you look at the level 6 programmes. They're very science focused. So again, with data science is the same as in business and technology. I think with packaging, we normally ask that you have an A level in A science. So yeah, it kind of depends. Hopefully that's answered the question, but it kind of depends on what you're applying for as to kind of what we ask from you.
They're really comprehensive. And we'll just briefly go through 2 more slides before final questions. If somebody did want to apply, could you just briefly talk us through this? And should they apply quite quickly as well? Because I think it's near the deadline, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So we are due to kind of close off the rest of our applications within the next couple of weeks. So if you are keen to apply for one of our roles, I would strongly suggest that you do it as soon as possible. If you're looking more for kind of opportunities for next year, the best time for you to start looking is kind of sort of October, November time, definitely for us. That's when we tend to go live for applications. So yeah, definitely keep your eye out for then if you're looking for next year. But yeah, if you're looking to do this year, sooner rather than later. And then in terms of our application process, so it's relatively straightforward. So the first stage is our online application. So, you know, it's just us asking things like, do you meet our entry requirements? What program do you want to apply for, etc., etc. And then the next stage would be what we call our situational judgment test. So this basically replaces what used to be a video interview that apparently no one enjoyed doing. So we've changed from a video interview to a situational judgment test. So this is basically, it's all done online, and it's basically a selection of about 15 questions that kind of tests how you would deal in a kind of Unilever apprentice situation. And then if you're successful at the situational judgment test, you will then be invited to our discovery centre, which is kind of the same thing as an assessment centre. So you'll do a variety of kind of individual and group exercises. And then if you are successful at the discovery centre, then you would be given an offer.
Cool, nice and simple. That's great. And so what about some of the benefits, if there are anything to touch on here, Sarah?
Yeah, so loads of benefits with working at Unilever. I think, yeah, we're super lucky in terms of all the things that we have access to. So competitive salary, again, that will probably be similar across the board with different employers. But definitely when you look at kind of the national minimum wage for an apprentice versus what our apprentices get paid, it's quite a lot better than that, which is really positive. Learning and development, so obviously we partner with some of the best training providers, so you're kind of learning towards your qualification, but there's also so much learning and development opportunity within Unilever aside from your apprenticeship as well. You know, we have an online learning platform that there are thousands of items of material and videos that you can watch, and so loads of learning support. Line managers also help huge amounts with kind of learning and development as well, which is also really great. We also give the opportunity for apprentices to have mentors and things like that. Then onto the health and wellbeing support. So this is one of my big drivers for working at Unilever, and it has always really attracted me, is kind of our health and wellbeing support. So there's kind of the physical wellbeing support that we have on offer. So we have gyms on most of our sites, which are free to use. And that includes kind of just the use of the gym, but also there's personal training that's at discounted rates. There are group exercise classes that you don't have to pay for. So that's really great. But I think from a kind of wellbeing perspective as well, we're really lucky in the sense that we have so many kind of wellbeing resources. We have access and subscriptions to things like Headspace, kind of meditation platforms. And also we're constantly being reminded that it's okay not to be okay, and that you need to take time out then to kind of speak up. And so that's really positive. And I think, you know, especially given the current kind of time that we're in and we're all working from home, I feel hugely supported by Unilever as my employer, which is really great. Then moving on to flexible working. So we're a very agile business, and you may have heard the word agile used in lots of different ways, but we're a very flexible organisation. And the kind of concept with Unilever is that as long as you get the job done, kind of where you do it and when you do it is not always the kind of the key point. And don't get me wrong, you can't kind of work nights if you're doing an office job, for example. But there is definitely flexibility. You know, we've got lots of parents that work for us that might take an hour out to go and collect their children from school and then log back on when they get home. Or it might be that, you know, if you've got a doctor's appointment, you make up the time elsewhere or whatever it is. So they're very flexible. We're all working from home now, and we have to. But normally we're also very lucky in the sense that actually even apprentices get to work from home, normally 1 day a week, which is really helpful as well, particularly if you're not based super close to our offices. It kind of gives you that extra level of flexibility, and you don't have to do a big commute 5 days a week. Which is really positive. And the last one is around holiday. So again, our holiday entitlement is also really competitive, and everyone loves a holiday when we can actually go away. Hey,
Is that 25 plus the 8 bank holidays that we get?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of holiday, guys. That's pretty good. Even as an apprentice, an entry level role, you get 25 days. Oh, you guys.
You forgot the free ice cream. The free ice cream.
Free ice cream.
Oh, you forgot the free. How could you forget the free ice cream?
Yeah. And actually, the other thing that I didn't mention was that we actually have a company store on some of our sites as well. So that means we get discounted products. Yeah, kind of all the products of the brands that I listed earlier, as well as lots of free ice cream, unhealthy amounts of free ice cream.
Right, guys, from free ice cream, I've got a few more questions I've got to get through here. So Izzy's asked, as an apprentice, do you work 4 days and 1 day on your course? Ijaz, you're nodding to that. Is it 1 day off a week?
Yeah, so 80% of the time is allocated towards Unilever work, and then the other 20% towards the training provider.
And Ellie, does this mean that you spend time at home or go to university or do an online course?
So for me, all my webinars are online through my training provider, and so I can do them in the office or from home. I have about 3 workshops a year where the training provider actually comes to the office where I'm based in Blackfriars. So that's for me. And just on the 20%, I think it works differently depending on which team you're in and what apprenticeship you do. But as Sarah mentioned, it's very flexible. So that's 80%. But if 1 week at work you're really busy and you have to change it about a bit, so I don't follow a really strict 4 days on, 1 day off. Kind of.
Oh, okay. And Jay has asked, actually maybe for Sarah, so if I wanted to apply to being a level 4 data analyst, would I be okay if I got 2.5 A levels?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go, Jay, you're in. We'll help you get that application sorted this week. I'm going to have a look here. Oh, how do you find the apprenticeships from Unilever? I think we've been through that already.
It's on the website. So I think actually my last slide, but it has got, I'll pop it actually in the...
pop it in the chat box, Sarah, that'd be brilliant. And also, Sarah, we'll then put that in the email to everybody after this. They'll get sent the recording and also how to apply. Sorry, I misread that actually. How do you find them rather than how do you find your job? So yeah, thank you for that. Ellen, another question from you, I'll read it out. How much and what sort of work experience is ideal when applying for a role in Unilever? I guess, Sarah, you're in charge of this, so do you need to have work experience to apply?
No, absolutely. You don't need to have work experience. I think what does help is if you kind of have some of the skills that you might get from having had some work experience. But you know, there's other things that you can kind of apply from your from kind of whether you've been on a sports team at school, or you know, there's kind of transferable skills that you get from other things aside from having work experience that can help you. And I think actually there was another question actually around kind of what kind of what was it saying? What kind of attributes are we looking for?
Yeah.
Or is it all based on grades? And I think that's also a really interesting one, because as I mentioned, we do have kind of grade requirements for some programs, but actually a lot of that is set by the training provider, not necessarily us as an employer. And I think what's really key is that a big part for us is that we actually want to enable people who might not necessarily have had the best opportunities at school to still have a really good start to their career. And so no, we don't focus huge amounts on your grades. We need you to be able to kind of not struggle too much with the apprenticeship program, which is why we do ask for some grades. But in terms of when we kind of assess you, I guess we're kind of basing a lot of that on your attributes. Like Ellie was saying earlier, it's a lot around, you know, do you communicate well? Are you approachable? Are you a kind of a team player? It's lots of things like that we're looking for, as opposed to kind of being really set on grades.
No, it's great to hear. And do please, yes, Sarah, put in that link. And guys, I'm just asking for your thoughts so far on the session. I've sent you a link just to do in terms of how you've rated the session. And just please do put in the plenary session in the chat box how you found the session today. I think I said session about 5 times there. Sarah, finance. Do you have finance roles at Unilever as well?
We do, yeah. So we have a massive finance team. Globally we have a massive finance team, but yeah, so in finance we normally run the level 4 accountancy apprenticeship program. We do have a couple of accountancy apprentices starting this year, but those positions have already been filled for this year. But if you're looking for next year, then there will probably be accountancy roles.
Okay, fantastic. Brilliant. And then maybe a negative to end on, unless there are any more questions, but Nadia's asked it, so I'll ask it. What are the disadvantages to the apprenticeship? Ellie, Ijaz, is there anything that you look at negatively?
Advantages? Disadvantages?
Yeah, well, exactly right.
What?
That might be right.
What? Say what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess you wouldn't be on this webinar if you didn't enjoy it, right? It sounds like you guys have got such a great start in your life, and I suppose you don't have the university debt. Is that right behind you?
No, I don't.
No.
Foundation, of course, but no.
Yeah.
It's just go on, Sarah.
I think on the kind of, I would say for a lot of people who are considering going to university, that is probably one of the disadvantages. Or what they think is going to be a disadvantage is that they might miss out on that social of university. But I think what a lot of people don't realise is that actually within an apprentice community, we can have a really good social life.
There we go, yeah.
And it's not always about going out to kind of student unions and getting really wasted. We do all sorts of different things within our apprenticeship community, and we're continuing to grow that. So, you know, since we've been in lockdown, we've had a big apprentice quiz. There was about 30 apprentices who did a big quiz together. We ran a massive apprentice event in our Leatherhead office where about 250 of our apprentices together. And that was a really good opportunity to socialise, network with some of our kind of senior stakeholders in the business. And kind of there is that social element of it as well. And then obviously our apprentices kind of have nights out as well. So you're definitely not missing out on that element of university doing an apprenticeship.
No, well said, Sarah. And Kira has just asked, what's required for research apprenticeships and what do you do? Just top line on that potentially, if possible.
Yeah, so research and development is all around kind of formulating basically new products. So for example, let's say someone in Ellie's team comes up with an idea for a new SIF product. They would then work very closely with the research and development team to actually create that product. So they would essentially build like a prototype of that product, and then it would go through loads of different consumer testing. And then eventually, if it's a viable product, then they would kind of send it to be created en masse. But research and development are kind of all about, you know, bringing that kind of concept to life, I guess is probably the best way of describing it.
Fantastic. And I've just, Jay Jones has said, this was really helpful. I'm only in year 12 currently, so I don't know if I'm ready to leave yet to apply for an apprenticeship, but definitely next year. Jay, just to be really clear, the examples that were shared here, some people might leave A-levels halfway through, but the recommendation is if you enjoy it, continue it. And then, you know, at the end of year 13, that's when you might want to leave. It's not recommended to drop out early, but it might be right. It's whatever's right for you. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is that, you know, even if you do, which hopefully you'll finish off your A-levels, it's always good to kind of be able to finish off your qualifications. So by the time you have started year 13, we'll open for applications within a couple of months of that anyway. So we'll open, you'll go back to year 13 in September, and then we'll open for applications in November. So that last year will fly for you anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ellen has said, this has been really useful and has made me consider the idea of an apprenticeship rather than university, as I'm really interested in having a career in a large business like Unilever. And Ellen, you were asking some fantastic questions. I wonder what year group you're in, if you're in year 12 or 13. Alaya has said it was useful to know about alternative routes to university. Oh, it's good that you guys have got that out of the session. Guys, by the way, if you are interested, I know I've done a survey which basically says if you're keen, but also just drop an email into Student at Pathway, then we just know you're mega keen and we'll just follow up with you. Because yeah, if I was you and I want to apply, I'll do it this week, because rolling recruitment sometimes does mean if they get lots of applications this week, they might close this week. You know, am I right, Sarah? It can happen, can't it?
Exactly. So if you're keen, yeah, get your applications in as soon as possible. The first stage of the application is really quick as well. So if you are keen, it won't take you very long. It's mainly just collating some key details, but yeah, get it done as soon as you can.
But well done. And then otherwise, guys, I know it's come to 3 o'clock. Do add us on Instagram if you haven't already. Last week we gave away Netflix prizes. I think next week we're doing the same. I think we're asking you what you thought of the session on there as well. But then finally, just well done for turning up. Thanks very much to our panelists. If you do want to apply for Unilever, get in touch and we'll support you, or just crack on and do it yourself and let us know. And if you're looking for the future, well, fantastic. You've got so much ahead of you, whether it's university, whether it's a placement year, whether it's a gap year or an apprenticeship scheme. Today, you've heard from one side of the fence, and I think it's quite exciting, really. Sarah, Ellie,